I've been talking about balancing a bit recently on this channel, but this is a bit of a heavy-handed approach. This is happening right now. My DM deliberately decided to remove from the game the following classes: Barbarian, Battle Rager, Berserker, Storm Herald, all bards, Cleric, Arcana, Death, and Trickery, Druids of the Moon and Dream, Fighters of the Arcane, Archer, and Champion variety, Monks who wield the four elements and long death, the rogue archetypes Assassin and Mastermind, and finally Warlocks who invoke the power of the Hexblade and the Undying, because in his opinion they are not suited to his world building or are not mechanically valid. The funny thing is that I was a bard and right now I am forced to switch to something else at level 14. I think it's kind of a dick move to ban my whole class mid-campaign because in his opinion it doesn't make sense in his lore. I hope you never have to experience this type of DM. Look, I get balancing and lore accuracy is important, but oh my god, what is the point of playing this game if you're going to ban everything the players want to use or are currently using? I did not expect I'd even have to have the thought of writing this, but here we are. Oh boy, strap in, grab some popcorn, it's gonna be a long one. Spoilers for Cursor Strahd, by the way, but it's only like the first 10% of it. I guess I should start at the beginning. So to set the background, it's February 2021. I really wanted to play in a D&D campaign. I played in a Dungeon Crawl Classics Level 0 event with the tabletop gaming community at my university, but going to their actual meetings didn't fit into my schedule. Afterwards, I tried to DM a game of Lost Mines of Phandelver for my close friends, but we didn't even get past session 0. Then I tried to join a different friend's game and had my character ready, but again, scheduling got in the way. It's been about a year or so since then, and I needed to scratch the itch, so I put out a message in an LFG server on Discord to try and find a game to join. A couple days later, I got contacted by a DM who I will call, well, DM. DM says that he has a game of Cursor Strahd open on Monday nights through Discord and Roll20 for $15 per session. Now, I may be in college and not extremely financially stable, but I figured I could just stop eating out so much and cover the cost, so I accepted the offer. We have a session 0 through digital messaging where we set up my character and backstory, as well as how I got into Barovia in the first place. He told me about a homebrew class he was testing, the Blood Rager, which had a mix of barbarian and sorcerer. It seemed like it'd be fun, so I came up with Theron, a half-moon elf. Like I do when I come up with my other characters, I free wrote a paragraph of what kind of person they are, bullet points about early life, etc. Just letting words flow, then cleaning it up on a second pass. I made him a sort of recluse who hadn't interacted with others much because he didn't have full control of his powers and didn't want to hurt others. The subclass I picked, called Fey Bloodline, was adept in illusion and charm magics, so I added that practicing with his illusion so much made him a bit disconnected from reality and slowish to trust. Anyways, I sent the paragraph to DM for him to read. He was about to start a new session, so he'd read it after. 3 days later, we start doing backstory refining to get ready for a little bit of RP to set Theron in Barovia. I decide to change him from being reserved to a little outgoing in a naive way. Since he's only about 25, he's still a child in elf terms. Since he's Fey bloodline, we added in that slipping into blood rage makes him not exactly cruel or evil, but sort of where he wants to play with his food before he eats, so to speak. He starts writing up a background prompt, his words, to start the RP, and only kept a single point from my original paragraph, that one point being that Theron's father was human and his mother was a moon elf. That's it. Tiny alarm bells rang in the back of my head, but I liked his new version as much as my original one, and in hindsight, it was a little better considering how Cursor Strahd starts, so I decided to ignore them for now. Now, this Theron was a wandering mercenary, but life didn't have the right kick to it. It was plain boring. However, in dreams or during periods where emotions were high, he'd slip into sort of euphoria, which he came to call the colored world. While in this world, quote-unquote, it's hard not to dance. He hears music everywhere, everything's happy, and he fights without a care in the world. I realize I'm taking a while to explain this, so I'll just give bullet points now. I met Aurigal, another character, in a tavern. He told Theron about a job to retrieve Irina from Barovia and bring her to the Burgomaster in Vallaki. He accepts, follows the directions, miscloses in, bam, he's in Barovia. Runs into a graveyard, finds his name on one of the graves, then the rest. He then sees himself in the gallows, almost breaks down, but a raven calms him down and leads him to a safe place on the road, but actually not safe because suddenly wolf ambush. Now we get to the meat of the story. The other players' names obviously changed. Dom playing a undead drow blood rager, a tough guy, but his heart's sort of in the right place. Nina playing a fallen ASMR sorcerer/warlock, who, due to events which led her vocal cord to be damaged, can only speak telepathically. Tim playing a human sorcerer, a stuck-up noble trying to get the hang of her magical powers. And Earl playing a halfling fighter, a marine trained to defend ships at sea. Sean playing a human cleric serving Lathander. I couldn't tell you much about his character other than the fact that he's a lycanthrope fighting the beast inside of him. This is due to him not having many, if any at all, character moments in session. Another red flag in retrospect. Okay, the first session was honestly awesome. I had a great time and I felt like I really gelled with the other players. Bit of a personal victory since I tend to get anxious meeting new people, especially in groups of new people, but that's a story for a different day. I should note here that Dom records our sessions for upload to YouTube. That gets relevant. So when I joined, they had just finished the Death House in the prior session, and were about halfway to Vallaki. I didn't know this at the time, but this was another red flag because we were only in session 11. The next few sessions were really RP heavy, and I mean heavy roleplay. There was no combat for 7 whole sessions. I didn't mind because it gave me time to hone in Theron as a character and interact with the others. But Sean was getting a bit antsy out of character. I learned that this was his 9th time trying to play Curse of Strahd all the way through, and the other times fell through for one reason or another. Skip ahead to session 19. We had just defeated a bunch of vampire spawn in the Coffin Maker's house, hit level 5 in the prior session because of milestone progression. Tim and I had big character moments, and we learned how Lady Wachter had the bones the church needed, but we had the skull. We go to her house to try and negotiate with her, and the only way she'd let us have them is if we killed the Burgomaster, his guard Isaac, and his son Victor. Apparently Victor, still trying to learn magic, turned the lady's daughter into a literal cat person, like acting like a cat. Nina suggested that we could find a way to change her daughter back, but Wachter refused, not even considering the possibility. We went outside to discuss what we could do, and guess what? Wachter decided to reveal that she can basically see and hear everything we do. This effectively means that betraying her is not an option, and we have to do whatever she does. Sneaking in is probably even less of an action. You hear that sound? That's right. It's railroad time. Yeah, Nina and Sean suspected railroading, but I didn't want to believe it because my time had been amazing so far, but the DM had the wool pulled over my eyes good. But then comes the next part. While out of session during in-game breaks, as long as we weren't in the middle of combat or about to be in combat, we did text RP in the Discord to further develop our characters. He ended the session after Wachter revealed that she could see and hear us and requested that we not RP in the chat for the week. On the other hand, I understand. He runs multiple sessions a week and doesn't always have the time to read what's going on, but on the other hand, come on, man. This was the first blow to me and the first step to me realizing what's going on. I created a group private message with just the other players so we could figure out what to do about everything. Immediately, everyone starts complaining in the chat about how the DM is being too slow, not giving us enough character moments, railroading us, etc. Essentially, Since we're paying, we want him to put more effort in. Okay, side note, I just need to say something about this. They're paying $15 for a session, and I'm assuming these are weekly games. So if you're doing weekly games, $15, that means you're paying $60 a month for Dungeons & Dragons. I'm sorry, that is way too freaking much. That is a lot of money. But anyway, all of this is especially bad considering Dom is giving him free publicity by recording, editing, and uploading videos in his free time. We communicated all of this to him over the week through a message, and he took it, well, maybe? He apologized to us and reminded us that we should always open up if we have any problems. And as far as character moments, he basically said, just be patient, but he promised stuff would be coming. Okay, session 20. We found a door on the other side of Walker's house. Apparently it's a magic door that needs a password. We try everything we can think of, but there probably wasn't one that would actually work in the first place. We go to the church to return the skull so they can start the process of re-hollowing and at least get the church protected. Walker's sons arrive with the town guard, half of which belong to Walker herself, and one of the party members gets into an in-character argument with the older son and a guard captain who doesn't work for Walker. He convinces the captain to let us go talk to the burgomaster. Alright, we get to him and hatch a plan. He'll quote-unquote arrest us, and we'll ambush Lady Walker's house when she doesn't expect it. We also learn how Walker's spying on us, an imp familiar named Majesto. And that's it. For almost 3 hours that session, that's all that happened. It's worth mentioning that the argument got so heated that some of the party were getting visibly upset out of character. One of the party mentioned after the session and away from the DM's ears that if it had gone on any longer, he would have left a voice chat for the game. DM congratulated him because we handled that better than his other groups. Excuse me, but what? Earl, the guy doing the argument, was barely containing himself, and that was better? What was the alternative? Another worthy note is that the wool was still over my eyes at this point, but it was slowly being pulled off. Okay, session 21. So, Strahd visits us while we're in jail, kills Majesto, and tells us that our best bet is through the sewers because there are less guards. We knew in character that if we took a long rest, we would be unable to get the bones in time. So this was really the only possible option that we could take. So we headed down the only possible route, going down the only available path down that route, followed some noise and got trapped with were-rats on one end and a giant mushroom man on the other end. We took down the mushroom man and had to end the session there, since I'm a college student and had exams the next morning. Session 22. We dealt with the rare rats. Thank God one of us was using a shillelagh, which makes any wood club or quarterstaff magical damage, but the ones that we were taking out were reforming somehow. DM told us that these lycanthropes will not fully die unless we have silver weapons. Okay, good thing some of us chose to buy those a few sessions earlier. After dealing with them, I had to leave so I could finish work on the project, and I learned that they had found one of the burgomaster's guards, badly injured and guarded to safety. Okay, that's it for that session. Going on to session 23. We look around more and find a magic door that, long story short, will only open for Walker or her immediate family members. However, there's a guy on the other side that will open it for us if we kill some spiders or retrieve the tome of her mage in the sewers. Not the best choices considering that we hadn't had a rest and we were in a serious time crunch here. We've basically given up on securing the bones at this point, so we explore the rest of the cave and find some mushrooms of various poisons and antitoxins. Oh, and also a green ooze. Oh, and one of the mushrooms that we threw at it gave it poisonous properties, despite us not throwing the poisonous mushroom. Fun! Long story short, we won, but barely. I had a character moment. Turns out the colored world is actually Theron tapping into the Feywild. Cool, but I've lost the ability to care at this point. Session 24. We get railroaded into fighting spiders. Nina almost turns into a mushroom colony because poison, but pleads to her patron who quote-unquote heals her. The poison's gone, but the scars from where the mushrooms started growing remain. She also explains her past as an ASMR. Oh, and also we rescued Walker's daughter. Now for the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I paid for the session, $15 US as usual. DM lives in Canada and I'm in the US, so he gets paid in Canadian dollars. In the weeks since I've been playing, Canadian dollars have been getting more valuable versus US dollars, meaning the same amount of US is worth less in Canada now. DM mentions this to me in private messages as a side comment. I go to our strategy chat to warn the US players that he might be upping the fee for us. They mention that it should be okay for them, as they're only paying $8 right now. Dom mentions that he should be able to get a discount in the first place since he's recording the sessions and giving the DM free publicity. Wait, hold on, the other American players are paying only $8? Yeah, I joined the DM's first group and he upped his fee between them starting and me starting, without telling them that I'm paying some kind of increased fee. Let me repeat that. I, the youngest and least financially stable member of our group, due to me being in college, and paying almost double of everyone else in the party, most of whom have full-time jobs. At this point, I've completely had it with the DM. The Friday before the game, we all left the server, sent the DM our gripes in private messages, then blocked him. We managed to find a new DM within 2 days, and as I post this, we've already had our first full session with them. And oh boy, does the future seem bright. Well, at least this one had a happy ending. In terms of the actual sessions, this doesn't seem too bad. The railroading is not the most egregious I've ever seen, and with the exception of drawing out the game, the actual games are not the worst things I've seen on this subreddit. However, what makes this truly horrifying is that price tag. $15 per game is way too much. Unless I'm literally playing with Matthew Mercer or Chris Perkins, I would not even consider paying $15 per session. That is just not happening. That is way too much, especially on a weekly basis. In total, this OP paid almost $200 for this campaign since they joined late. If they had joined at the beginning, it would be far, far more than that. This is absolutely ridiculous. The DM has no reason to be overcharging like this, and especially manipulating the OP into paying more. And based on the comment they made about Canadian currency, they were probably trying to manipulate the OP into paying even more money than just $15, which in my book would have been absolutely borderline criminal. Also, stretching out the game like that is not a good idea. In case you couldn't tell by the constant mention of the changing sessions, not much actually happened in these individual sessions, and I understand that sometimes you have a slow session where not much happens. That is totally reasonable, but when every single session is just a slog, story progression is almost non-existent, that is really, really bad. It's not good for the game. There has to be at least a little bit of pacing here to keep players engaged, and it's especially bad if people are paying a ridiculous amount of money for it. Man, this isn't even factoring in the DM completely ignoring the OP's backstory at the beginning of the post. The price tag just made me completely forget about that component. Also, hey, what is it with DMs and railroading Curse of Strahd? Come on, guys, it's my favorite module. Don't ruin it. Don't do that. It's really bad. Curse of Strahd is awesome. Make it awesome for your players. Okay, I'm finally done. Now, before we end off this video, I do want to announce something that I posted in the community tab yesterday, but just in case, I'm going to mention it here. I am joining a live D&D game with Cunic, Den of Drake, Crow's Perch, Artificial DM, and RPG Tales. It is going to be a one-shot set on a new YouTube channel. We're going to be doing it live. It's going to be great. It's happening later this month, and in the community tab you can choose what character I'm playing. The basic pitch of each character is in a poll right now. Cast your vote and I'm sure that it's going to be great no matter what the outcome is. I am so excited for this, and I hope you guys are as well. If you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories, then please do hit that like button. If you want to see more videos by me and my other content, then please do subscribe to Crispy's Tavern. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.